The purpose of this training program is to instruct you on how to safely and properly use the Weyerhaeuser tarping system to tarp your trailer. At Weyerhaeuser, we have a goal of 0 incidents. The tarping stations that Weyerhaeuser provides are a tool to ensure that this goal is met day in and day out. At Weyerhaeuser, safety is always our #1 priority. The object of the tarping system is to make sure you can tarp your trailer without having to climb any higher than the back or front of your trailer. It's an OSHA rule that if you work more than 6 feet off the ground, you must be tied off properly. Before you begin, there are areas of the tarping station you need to become familiar with. These include the hoist and trolley assembly, designed to raise the tarp and pull it into place. The spreader bar is part of the hoist system. The tarp attaches to the spreader bar so it can be raised over the load. The tarping roll bar assembly is a guide designed to keep the tarp in place during the pulling process. Operating controls for the tarping guide and the hoist system are located on the driver's side at the rear of your trailer. The tarping guide controls allow you to turn the system on and off, and a separate switch raises and lowers the tarping guide. The hoist assembly remote control has 6 buttons. Using the remote control, you can turn the hoist on and off, raise and lower the hoist, and move the trolley forward and in reverse. Tarping your trailer. Drive slowly when entering the tarping station. It's crucial that your rig is lined up straight with the overhead tarping guide, and that it's lined up just to the inside of the yellow line painted on the concrete slab. Drivers are required to wear a hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, and an orange reflective vest when working in the tarping station. Before you begin the tarping process, check the straps to make sure the load on your trailer is secure. Lay your back tarp out at the rear of the trailer. The back tarp must always be pulled first so you have the proper overlap when you pull the front tarp over the load. The tarp must be centered behind the trailer. Spread the tarp out with the top seams and rings facing up. It's very important that the tarp be unfolded on each side. If you have flaps on your tarp, pull them to the side of the tarp. Once the tarp is laid out correctly, go to the tarping roll bar assembly control box and turn the power on. Using the selector switch, lower the tarp guide roll bar until the assembly comes down slightly behind the truck, with the roll bar slightly above the top of the load. Using tie downs, secure both sides of the tarp guide to the back of your trailer. This will hold the tarp guide in the proper position while the tarp is being raised. Next, go to the remote control for the crane hoist system located on the driver's side just to the rear of your trailer, and press the lower button to bring the spreader bar down to just above your tarp. This will make it easy to attach the spreader bar to the tarp. The spreader bar must be in the center of the tarp, and the tarp must be centered behind the trailer for the tarp to pull correctly. Lock the snap rings through the grommets located on each side of the center section of the tarp to secure the tarp to the spreader bar. There's a tarp release cable on each side of the spreader bar. Be sure to position these cables on the side of the tarp, so when the tarp is in the proper position over the load, you can reach the cable and then release the tarp. Once the tarp is positioned and properly hooked up, push the up button on the remote control to raise the tarp into position so it can be moved across the load. You only need to raise the tarp enough to clear the tarp guide, approximately 1.5 feet above the tarp guide. Next, press the forward button, and the hoist system will pull the tarp into place. Pay close attention to the side of the tarp as it's being pulled forward. If it hangs up, stop and correct the problem before continuing. It's important that you put the back tarp on first. You can bring the tarp a little further forward and then adjust it into the proper position. You can always pull your tarp back, but you can't pull it forward once it's been released. When the tarp is in position over the load, lower the spreader bar. Take the cables that are connected to the snap rings and give each one a tug to release the tarp. Once the tarp has been released, use the remote control to raise the spreader bar. Then move the spreader bar to the back of the trailer and lower it into position just behind the trailer and just above the ground to prepare to raise the front tarp. Now prepare to pull the front tarp into place. Lay the front tarp out behind the truck like you did the first one, with the top seams and rings up. Spread the tarp out, centering it with the spreader bar and the back of the trailer. Pull the side flaps away from the middle of the tarp. Lock the snap rings through the rings or grommets located on each side of the center section of the tarp. Move the release cables so you can access them when the tarp is in position over the load. Raise the tarp approximately 1.5 feet above the tarping guide as you did on the back tarp. Then, using the remote control, move the tarp across the load and into its most forward position. Once the front tarp is in place, take the cable that's connected to the snap ring and give it a tug to release the tarp. Once the tarp is released, raise the spreader bar and then move it back to the home position, which is all the way to the back of the trolley, so it will be in place for the next driver. Unhook the tarp guide from the back of your trailer and raise it until it's within 1 foot of the trolley. It's very important that you don't raise the bar too high. If you do, you'll bend the bar and cause the system to be down until it can be repaired. Turn the hoist controller to the off position and turn the tarp guide controller to the off position. You can climb on the back or front of your trailer to adjust the tarp, but you cannot get over 6 feet off the ground unless you're tied off. The object of the tarping system is to make sure you don't have to work above 6 feet off the ground to tarp your trailer. The last step is to secure the tarps on your truck to complete the tarping process. Be cautious and drive slowly as you pull out of the tarping station. This tarping system is in place with one goal in mind, and that's to ensure your safety. Safety is always our first priority. If you have any questions or need assistance, be sure to contact your Weyerhaeuser representative.